Just talking about with Bobby Ojeda, there's a ton of stuff happening in the sports world that transcends the sports page, ends up in the pages of the news section of the newspapers and even the business section. And I don't think there's a better example of that than what's happening with the Super Bowl. There's all this hullabaloo over the Super Bowl, not only from a sports perspective, but from a business perspective. Part of that, of course, has to do with the massive amounts of eyeballs that are on this game. It's part of the reason both Mike Bloomberg and Donald Trump are spending $10 million each to run an ad during the Super Bowl, but a lot of it has to do with what a cultural phenomenon the Super Bowl has become. Here to talk about that and a whole bunch more is Jim Quinn. He's a legendary sports attorney who spearheaded free agency for every professional sports league. He's also the author of the new book, Don't Be Afraid to Win, How Free Agency Changed the Business of Sports. Jim, thanks so much for joining us again.
Hey, it's great to be with you.
So let's talk about the Super Bowl. I know I've heard that Madison Avenue and the networks, they always root for a New York team and an LA team to be in every championship for everything because those markets tend to produce big viewership. Kansas City and San Francisco, what does that mean from a business perspective, a sports entertainment perspective?
Well, I think in the NFL it's a little different because there's a level of equality among all the cities. And there's one of the things that people are more interested in the NFL than perhaps in other sports is just looking at the matchups. And the matchups in this particular instance are terrific. You've got the best quarterback in professional sports with Mahomes, extremely exciting to watch. And you have the quarterback that it looks like the New England Patriots wish they had or kept with Garoppolo. And I just think it's going to be, they're going to get a lot of eyeballs. I think just the fact that, as you mentioned, Trump and Bloomberg have spent $10 million each to buy a minute's worth of time is going to increase the eyeballs in addition. But I think, look, the Super Bowl is all about money. And not like the 32 owners need anymore, but, God bless them.
How did the Super Bowl become the cultural phenomenon that it is, certainly eclipsing the World Series, the Stanley Cup, the NBA Finals? Why the Super Bowl? Is it because it's only one game?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. And the NFL is terrific in terms of their ability to promote these kinds of things. There's nobody better. And it built up over time. I mean, if you think about it, the original Super Bowls in the late 60s and through the 70s, there was interest. But it really didn't reach the kind of level it has today until somewhere in the mid to late 80s. And it is truly a worldwide phenomenon.
The championship in football prior to the Super Bowl, prior to 1967, was decided similar to how the other sports are decided, right? Or how did it work?
Well, actually, there were no real playoffs. Essentially, there was a Western Division and an Eastern Division, and whoever won each of the divisions played in the, quote, NFL championship game.
Oh, so it was still a single game?
It was still a single game, probably the most famous game that was ever played and pushed the NFL onto the front pages was the famous game between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants in 1958, which ran, it was the first overtime game. It happened on a Sunday afternoon where people didn't have a lot to do. It got incredible ratings. And after that, a year later, a group of other rich people decided they were going to try to open another league, the American Football League, eventually merging into the NFL in the mid-'60s. And that one championship game back in 1958 is literally referred to at the NFL as, quote, the game.
Wow. Well, our president, Donald Trump, even had an American Football League team, didn't he?
No, he was in the USFL.
So the AFL became the AFC.
That's correct.
And then the NFC and the
AFC,
they make up that National Football League. The USFL, they met their demise when they tried to be a regular season competitor to the NFL.
Yes, and our president had a lot to do with that.
Well, he was hoping to kind of get an NFL team on the cheap, it sounds like,
that's
right?
that's what I'm told, yes.
Aside from the Super Bowl, the other story that everybody's talking about is this Houston Astros cheating scandal.
Yep.
Again, we're wishing the best to the people of Houston with this explosion down there today. I know very tough for a lot of folks down there in Houston. Now, it's cost the Astros manager and the general manager their jobs. It's cost the New York Mets manager his job and the Red Sox manager. Do you expect other shoes to drop with this whole thing?
Well, I mean, everyone now is waiting to see what the report on the Red Sox situation is going to be. I'm told that is likely to come out within days. There are reports, I don't know how accurate they are, that the Major League Baseball is actually looking into several other potential similar scandals. And obviously, if Major League Baseball would like this all to go away, but it's not going to go away, and it's going to stay in the public eye for a while. You have, as I'm sure you saw, the mayor of Los Angeles filing a grievance, and people are now bringing lawsuits claiming that they were somehow duped. I don't think any of that's going to go anywhere, but it's going to stay in the public eye for a long time.
So, do you think this has the potential to damage public confidence in baseball along the lines of, say, the steroid scandal or even maybe the Black Sox scandal?
Well, you know, sometimes you have to step back a little bit, and we're talking about stealing signs, which has been going on for 100 years in baseball, probably 150s ever since it started. You know, this all has to do with the fact that they were using technology which was actually prohibited, but they're going to be stealing signs for the next 100 years. So I think this is not. I don't think it's as serious as the steroid issue was, and certainly not as serious as the Black Sox issue.
Jim Quinn, Don't Be Afraid to Win is the book. What are folks going to learn in the book?
Well, I think they're going to learn how we got to be where we are today in terms of all of professional sports, why the amount of money that people are earning, what the effect of free agency has had and will have on professional sports. But it's really a book about the stories, how a lot of interesting characters, from George Steinbrenner to President Trump, among others, and a lot of special players who spent a lot of time fighting with owners and ultimately reaching a system that, relatively speaking, has been fair to everybody and has made everybody a lot of money.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to see you.
All right, don't go anywhere. We're going to continue more news and analysis next here on Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm Frank Morano. We'll be right back.